Hello, hello. Thanks for stopping by the channel. For this video, I'm looking at H.E.R.O for the Commodore 64. H.E.R.O stands for Helicopter Emergency Rescue Operation, and this is an Activision game that was released for a bunch of different 80s home PCs, and of course the Atari 2600, where it might be the most popular. Personally, I would love a copy of H.E.R.O for the 2600, but that's one of the more costly games right now, I think, and I'm not dropping no $50 on a cart. Most I would ever pay for a cartridge for the 2600, I think I paid 20 or 25 bucks for Pitfall 2. That's a top tier game. In general, I never pay more than a couple of bucks for an Atari cart. I have collecting limits. But this is the Commodore 64, and it's functionally the same game. This is a single screen platformer that doesn't scroll. If you move from one screen to the other, the entire screen is going to refresh. We get a total of 20 different levels, and if you manage to get through all 20 levels, levels 13 to 20 will repeat. With the Commodore 64, you can also select 5 different starting levels. 1, 5, 9, 13, or 17, which is great if you just want to jump into something that's a bit more challenging. Here, in this game, you play an agent named Roderick H.E.R.O, which isn't something I actually knew. I didn't know he had a name before I started looking at this one. Your task is to rescue miners from a collapsed mine. You do have some specialized equipment to help you get this job done, of course. You get the classic helicopter backpack, a helmet laser, and dynamite. None of these sound the slightest bit safe to me, but here we are. I mean, I don't know, the way I think about it is you're carrying a gigantic spinning blade off of your back, and if it were to spin enough to get you off the ground, well, one slip of your backpack and I can only imagine something bad's going to happen. But here we are, it's a game. Dynamite in this game obviously is for blowing stuff up, specifically walls. You're going to find plenty of walls in the way, and you're going to start each level with 6 sticks of dynamite. The helmet laser is what you're going to use to get rid of any creatures in your way that you might encounter. You'll have spiders, bats, moths, snakes. There's also a sea monster somewhere in here that might show up and chase you around too. You have lanterns on some of the levels, and as you're falling to the next screen, if you bump into one of these lanterns, the entire screen is going to go dark, and you won't be able to see what you're doing. I guess the moral of this story is descend slowly and be as careful as possible when you're going from screen to screen. In your journey, there are a bunch of different ways you can die. First, you have a power level, and that's at the bottom of the screen, and basically it's your level timer. You have to get to the end of the level before this runs dry. Running into a creature will lose you a life too. Or if you touch one of the glowing red walls. Those are actually supposed to be magma, and they're not very good to touch. Lastly, and probably most common, or at least more common than it should be, you can blow yourself up with dynamite. This is something I don't encourage, of course, but man, they have really short fuses. You need to press down and then immediately run away. It even seems like it might be a little shorter of a fuse than the Atari 2600 version of this game. You need to get moving fast. So this is your life. You're going to be running around and rescuing miners. You're going to be dodging, shooting, and blowing stuff up along the way. I think flying is interesting in this one, and possibly handles a little differently than you would expect. You feel a little less like you're flying and more like you're controlling how you fall to different levels. The joystick is reasonably responsive too. You get around, of course, but you're doing a lot more falling, I think, than flying. If you're running along the ground or you're flying, the fire button will fire your lasers from your helmet. That's useful, great for shooting all those monsters along the way. But if you're on the ground and you pull down on the joystick, it will place and ignite a stick of dynamite. And you're going to have to work to get your timing right on this one, because you're probably going to blow yourself up a couple times before you get it. I know I did. A lot. When you get through the creatures, through the different paths, and through any walls that might be in the way, you're going to find miners lounging around at the end of some path somewhere. All you have to do is run up and touch them, and the level's going to be over. Then you move on. It's a fun enough game in concept. Even if having a helicopter strapped to your back is the epitome of danger. I mean, I can't think of a more dangerous method of transportation. And it doesn't even look the slightest bit safe. We're not talking Inspector Gadget level quality here. It just looks like a gigantic head-chopping blade on your back. I digress. The graphics here are better than the Atari 2600 version. Those are kind of blocky, solid, and they're fine for the Atari 2600, of course, but it's different here. More specifically, we get some detail in the scenery. We get stones in the wall. You can see texture, and having any sort of texture like this on these old games is always great. It just sets it aside from the Atari 2600. I really appreciate that. It does handle similar, and your avatar looks pretty much the exact same. All things considered, different system, but they look the same. This wouldn't be one of those cases where you put in this game after playing the Atari version and you have no idea what's going on. They're pretty much the exact same, with some different graphics and some different textures. I think if there was one wish that I had for this game, it would be music. We don't get any music on a system that's known for its ability to produce great sounds. I think a rocking synth soundtrack would really accompany this game well. At least that's what I think. One other item is, there appears to be possibly 2 versions of this game for the Commodore 64. The only real difference in the two, from what I've read anyway, is that some of the colors on the levels might have shifted up a little bit. I'm not sure if that's a difference between a disc version and a cartridge version, but that's what I read. Well, that's all I have today for H.E.R.O for the Commodore 64. This was a fun one. I was glad to put it in and play. Thanks so much for watching, and please like and subscribe to the channel if this is your sort of thing. Hope to catch you on another video.